Hello, welcome to all of our live viewers right now. My name is Curtis Menke. I am the McHenry High School College and Career Counselor. We are glad and fortunate to have you with us tonight for our Intro to AVID presentation. What is this program and how might it fit your student as they transition from 8th grade to us over at the high school? All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'll go here to the next slide and we'll do our introductions. Ms. Hines, you want to take it away?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Hines. I am the freshman campus admin coordinator. And I also teach Elm at the freshman campus. And I used to be a special ed coordinator, so I might jump into that role next year. I don't really know what the future holds, but that's just a little bit about me.
All right. And I am Mrs. Heidi Dunn, and I am the AVID coordinator at the UC. I'm also an English teacher, and I also do some things with theater, particularly at the freshman campus theater program, and like whatever anyone wants me to do, that's what I jump in. I'm a district learning coach also for the district. We may have joining us tonight Mr. Andrew Stiganga. He said he'd try to pop in at some point, and he is an AVID 9 elective teacher. So if your kids decide that they want to do AVID, he might be one of their teachers.
Our principal might also jump in as well. To be determined, he may or may not get on. So Greg Eiserman might also be joining us as well, but we'll see.
All right.
Okay. All right. So AVID, what does that even mean? What does it stand for? AVID stands for advancement. So moving forward, and then via individual determination, and basically moving forward and having that intrinsic motivation to do well in school. So we have kind of AVID school-wide and AVID elective. Our AVID elective, the goal for our students is to kind of close that achievement gap and prepare our students with the skills and strategies they need to be successful in college and their careers. And our elective students have like 45 minutes a day of instruction with our AVID teachers. And AVID school-wide is more of like a building initiative where we try to sprinkle in pieces from our elective curriculum. So things that our strategies from the elective, like our writing strategies, our inquiry strategies, organization, collaboration, and reading. And so we're trying to filter some of those into our school-wide so that all of our students are getting common language and common strategies across the board in all of their content classes. But so the AVID curriculum or the AVID elective is a little bit more focused, whereas AVID school-wide, we're trying to take pieces of that to kind of help all of our students across the board. And we're currently doing note-taking and also kind of working on the organizational piece with agendas across our school-wide curriculum right now.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about why certain students have been selected to be invited to apply to this program. And that's a somewhat complicated process of contacting the middle schools across McHenry and finding out, first of all, who would fit the criteria. So that might be column that you see here in the middle as who is an AVID student is kind of how we make our initial selection to invite people to that meeting. So we look for students that are in the academic middle. So for example, GPA, and we had to look at 7th grade GPA because 8th grade grade point averages aren't out yet. So if you had a 7th grade GPA of 2.5 to 3.5, which would be like a C plus to a B plus range, then that was the first criteria. And then we also looked for kids who were in about the middle as far as standardized testing. So from about 35% to maybe 70% achievement on standardized test. And the other things are things that we can't find out about students until they apply for the program. But AVID is a program that is geared toward helping students who might be first generation people and their families to go to college, get into college. And we might be like, some of the students might be people with potential obstacles to reaching their full potential, whether that's academic or social or economic obstacles. Our job is to try to help those students achieve just as much as the next student sitting next to them. So the one thing that you need to know is that this isn't an academic intervention. So it's not like a IEP or a 504 or a study hall, or it's not behavioral or anything like that. It is simply a program that helps good students turn into great students, students that are already achieving at a pretty decent level to achieve at a higher level. So this is the kid that is typically forgotten because teachers are like, oh, Johnny's doing great in class. We don't really have to worry about him. He's not a behavioral problem. He's here most of the time and he's getting decent grades. But as parents, you might want that child to maybe get better than decent grades. And we become kind of like that student's family at school to kind of help give them the extra push to find motivation in themselves to achieve at the highest level possible for that student. And that's kind of what our whole goal is. We want all students to achieve at the highest possible level, no matter if they're in the AVID program or not. But the AVID students are students that we've picked out as being students who have potential to achieve maybe even more than they can imagine. So we also make sure that our students, once they get into the program, have good classroom behavior, that they have good attendance, that they are motivated and always want to try to push themselves a little bit further. One of the things under should be, you'll see the last little bullet point there, is wanting to attend a 4-year college. That doesn't necessarily mean that we won't accept students who are thinking about going to a 2-year college like MCC and aren't really sure if they're going to finish at MCC and then move on to a 4-year college. And we're not going to turn down a student who wants to take an avenue into the military or even directly into trades or career. We want to get kids ready for both college and career as best as we can. And that's kind of what we're looking for out of those students. All right. So Lauren is going to talk a little bit next about what you might do in the AVID pathway. And if we have Mr. Stiganga, is he waiting?
Yep, I'm going to pull a couple more speakers on the screen here, Mr. Iserman and Mr. Stiganga. I'll let you gentlemen introduce yourselves. Mr. Iserman, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Iserman. I'm principal at the freshman campus.
I'm Andrew Stiganga. I'm one of the AVID elective teachers for AVID 9 and looking forward to meeting your students.
Mr. Stiganga, if you want to talk a little bit about what the elective class looks like, just through like a typical kind of week of what that would look like for our students in AVID 9, I think that might give parents a little bit better understanding about what that elective period would look like for their student.
Yeah, in the elective 9 class, the focus is on building like a solid foundation for a lot of things. A lot of kids don't know how to take notes. They're not really sure how to actually study for a test. So we really focus on those sorts of things. Organization's a massive thing. They're all going to get a binder. The beginning starts out a little slow because, students don't necessarily want to talk about how to take notes or how to organize their binders or some of those things. But after we get started with that, we start a process called tutorials where every Tuesday, Thursday, they're in focused study groups where they're working together with students to solve math problems, biology problems, anything that they have for their classes. And then they have personal tutors per group that help them. Tomorrow we're doing our Friendsgiving event, which is one of kind of the highlights of first semester. I know Heidi or Lauren brought it up earlier, but that idea of building a family, it takes time for sure. But after our first group went through last year, I think pretty much all of them described the class as a family. So that's kind of the goal freshman year. And then as they build into sophomore year, hopefully they have those foundational building blocks to go off of, and they've built that family feel and that culture. And then it makes it that much easier for them to go off into their challenging classes and do their best.
Awesome. I also think too, for our elective during the week, usually Monday and Wednesday, we focus on curriculum, our AVID curriculum, where that's where we are infusing our strategies as far as like our Wicker strategies, the writing and reading, organizational inquiry. And then in collaboration. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, like what Mr. Stegenga said, is that they are in their tutorial groups. And that doesn't typically start until about October. And then that continues on through the whole year. And then Fridays, we also rotate. Sometimes we have speakers coming in. Sometimes we're doing community service projects. Sometimes we are, going on field trips. Our freshman class does get to go on to college bound field trips. And so that's kind of how the program works for the elective. And we rotate through that AVID curriculum, the tutorials, and then speakers, and just having students really getting to understand what is out there, and, having them have different opportunities, that opportunity knowledge of figuring out what do I want to do and what's available to me, and how am I going to spend this next 4 years of high school really figuring out what I want to do after high school, whether that's career or college, like Mrs. Dunn was saying. So that's just a little bit more about our elective. And then we can go on to the next slide and kind of take you through all 4 pathways. Or all 4 years of AVID. So what Mr. Stegenga was saying, with our 9th grade, it is really focused on student skills. Freshman year is all about how to be a good student. And like he was saying, it is not always really fun. It is not, we try to have a good time and infuse a lot of things, but we really want our 9th graders to come away as having strategies that are going to help them be successful at the upper campus. I think our freshman campus is really great transition between 8th grade and then jumping into sophomore year. And so we're really building those skills of how do we talk to teachers? How do I stay organized? How do I keep all of my materials together and making sure that I'm staying on track, that I'm getting the grades that I need, that I have the GPA that I want, and really understanding like how high school works. And so, those are all the skills that we're building in AVID 9. And then, we also have those guest speakers, like I was saying, and then we take those 2 field trips. We go to MCC, and then we also in the spring go to UW Parkside, and which is a really awesome opportunity for freshmen because they are the only group of kids that are going on an actual college visit as freshmen. So it's a really great opportunity. And then I'll let Mrs. Dunn kind of talk about the upper AVIDs, the 10, 11, and 12, and what that pathway looks like.
Right. We are in our 2nd year of an AVID program at McHenry High School. And so we have a group of students who are 9th grade AVID students, and then we have a group of students who are 10th grade AVID students. Next year, we'll have 3 different AVID 9, 10, and 11 classes. And then the year after that, we'll be building so that we have all AVID all 4 years. And we've kind of laid some things out here on this slide to help you understand that if you choose to take the AVID program, it is a 4-year commitment. So we do want you to start with AVID 9 and progress all the way up to AVID 12, because each year adds a little something extra into the preparation for students for college and career readiness. So 10th grade, there is quite a big change from 9th grade to 10th grade as well, because as you know, in McHenry, we have middle school, and then we have freshman year campus, which, as Ms. Hines has said, and Mr. Eisman can speak to, that's quite a transition to go from middle school to freshman year. But the transition from freshman year to sophomore year is also pretty intense. So we do a lot of work in the AVID 10 transitioning to the upper campus and helping kids make that second transition in 2 years go a little bit smoother. So we will be reinforcing a lot of the skills, or we are reinforcing a lot of the skills that they learned in AVID 9. But onto that, we tack on career exploration. So we start kids thinking about, what does the next 4 years, the next 5 years, the next 8 years of my life, what does that look like to me? And how do I get to where I want to be when I'm a fully functioning adult in society? And what do I want to give to society through the talents that I have and the interests that I have? So 10th grade is really focused on career exploration. We continue with our tutoring program. We have 4 to 5 different adult tutors who come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and take kids through the tutorial groups where they ask questions that they have in their classes. and their groups help them answer those questions, and the tutors kind of guide them in that process. And then we also do some field trips. We went this fall to UW-Madison, and then in the spring, we're going to go to Northern Illinois University. So kids get like a wide variety of colleges in their first 2 years to kind of see, all the way from MCC to, a 30,000 person Big Ten school, and they get to see what that's like. And then in 11th grade, we're going to be doing a lot more college exploration. The goal is by the time they leave 11th grade is to know exactly what schools they want to apply to when senior year starts, and to already work on those applications. We're going to be doing some SAT, ACT prep, little standardized test prep to help boost those scores a little bit more and continue our college field trip venture. And then 12th grade, we walk students through every step of the process in applying to college, applying for financial aid, applying for scholarships, and reinforcing any kind of skills that they might need in order to move on into college. So for any family out there who's not gone through the process, or maybe it was a while ago that you went through the process, you yourselves went through the process of applying to college, but things maybe have changed since then, we're here to help the students and you to navigate that journey with the counseling staff at McHenry High School, who are also excellent at doing that. So our AVID kids have been very successful so far in making those transitions and doing really well. So Mr. Eisman, do you want to add anything about high school transition and all that?
Yeah, and a little bit just about maybe big picture AVID too. We know the 8th to 9th transition is really hard. We partner a lot with D15 and Harrison, and I've talked quite a bit about all the transitions. 5 to 6 is really hard, going from elementary to middle school, and then you have that giant jump from 8 to 9. And so we've really just building wide try to do quite a bit to help that transition. We have programs that we do, freshman rally. We have philosophies that help freshmen, our placement process. We bring them in as 8th graders to the upper campus. We try to do a lot to support that, but we know it's a hard transition, and you have full schedule. We don't have time during the day necessarily. Not all kids do. Say they have full schedule, or in middle school, they have, an advisory period and sometimes a work period. You don't have that in high school. You have athletics and activities, sometimes 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And so the time commitment is bigger. And we know it's like a crush right at the beginning of the year if you're a fall athlete, for example. So a little bit about the AVID program in general is, it is a family. I watched it grow last year, and I watched our AVID 10 kids come back to the freshman campus earlier, and I saw about 12 kids crying because they were so happy to see their teachers again. And then just the skills that they learned, there is pretty crazy amount of data coming from that class of AVID 10 about how successful they were, sort of compared to some like peers who were eligible for AVID but chose not to apply. And it's pretty eye-opening. Pretty much every data point supports just how successful the AVID philosophy and structure is. And as Mrs. Hines and I talk frequently, the long-term goal for me as principal is to not have that gap there, and to take what AVID serves for those 50 kids and apply it to our 525. That's my goal, is to see that gap sort of disappear between where our AVID kids are and where they're not. And so that's sort of the building wide, which we will probably talk about a little bit later, but that's an aspect of AVID as well.
Okay, so AVID is a national program. It is not something that we just came up with in McHenry and that we're like, we're just going to make this program. This is a nationwide program. It is all across the world, actually, AVID is, and all across the United States. And, as it says on the screen, more than 2 million students have gone through AVID or are currently in AVID or a part of AVID. And 8,000 schools around the world too. So, and typically when there is a student in AVID, there's a 90% rate or higher that student will be accepted into a 4-year college. And so and many times when colleges see that students are an AVID student, they, their application might be bumped up a little bit, or this just kind of more awareness that, oh, this student has, skills that we're looking for in college. So because it is this program that has been around for a long time, and has so much success, that bodes really well for our students who are who have that as their background and have that as an elective, and they are an AVID student. So just it's been nationally proven, and I'm excited for us once we get to our 4 years of AVID that we can be a part of that too, and kind of have that data and show that how successful it is, because like Mr. Eiserman said, it's already been successful. And I'm just hoping that every year that can grow and we can be a part of that too.
We are hoping that if you're all coming to our parent night, our live parent night, December 4th, at Freshman Campus in the theater, we'll be able to share more of that data with you so you can kind of see how successful we've been. And we're pretty proud of the program that we've created here. But there's other schools throughout Illinois that have also had like this similar success. So almost 30,000 students throughout Illinois are involved in the AVID program. It's been part of Illinois for over 22 years. Curriculum in schools in Illinois. And as you can see, if you look down this list here, college ready, 81% applied, 75% accepted into the school of their choice. And it's in 35 different districts throughout Illinois and 101 different high schools. We know that it works in Illinois. And we're pretty happy that we're one of the schools that have joined the AVID family in the last couple of years, because all of us are here because we've seen it working for our students. So we'd love on December 4th at 6 p.m. at the Freshman Campus Theater to answer any questions that you have that maybe you're not comfortable sharing online tonight. And also you get to meet some of the kids who've gone through AVID that night, and also be able to hear like some of the success that we've had so far. Okay, our last like really informational slide that we want to share with you tonight is the timeline that we have going into it. And I think Lauren is going to kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing moving forward.
So last week we went to Harrison, MMS, and Parkland, and we talked with all of your kids that are eligible for the program. And so that was last Thursday, where we introduced ourselves, kind of what AVID is, and also opened up the application. Tonight is the virtual parent night, obviously. So this is where we're at right now, November 20th. Our next thing, like Mrs. Dunn was saying, is our recruitment night. So that is the where our parents are, where we, like Mrs. Dunn said, we're going to be live in the theater, not just on a screen. And we'll have our students there talking more about the program and just how it's benefited them. I think it's always better when you see firsthand of how it's been successful and hear from our students. And so that's really what that night is going to be like, where you can meet some of our AVID 9 and our AVID 10 students. And so we hope to see you there. And if you have any questions, especially about the application process or what that looks like, we'll be able to kind of answer those there as well. And then on December 13th is when our applications are going to be due. So all of your students have received the application link. They got the link when we went and visited them at last Thursday. And they also were emailed the link. I think you all got the link as well. Their parents got the link. And then the assistant principals at each of the schools sent out the link to the students' email as well. So they should have gotten that yesterday or today. So applications are there. Everybody has access to those. Along with the application, though, that should be filled out by the students, right? So AVID, what it stands for, that individual determination, we want our students to fill those out because it's their lives and what they want to do. And so it shouldn't really be like parents filling that out. We want the students to fill that out and coming from their perspective. And also with the application, they have to have 2 teacher referral or recommendation forms. And they each got some of those too at their middle schools when we were there. If they lost a copy or need to give one, we left some in the front office as well. And so all the students should have that too. They need to give 2 of those to their teachers. It could be any teacher that they've had in the past, just somebody that knows them well and can speak to them about speak about how they are as a student. So the application and then the 2 teacher recommendation forms are what needs to be turned in. Once those are turned in and due December 13th, Friday, December 13th, it's like our, I hope it's a good day that we picked, even though that has like negative juju. And so those will be due right before Christmas break. Mrs. Dunn and I will review all of those, kind of look at what kids have submitted with their application. And then the week of January 13th, we will come and interview all the students who applied for the program. We only have about anywhere between like 45 to 50 spots for our AVID elective because we only have 2 sections. So if only like 50 kids apply, great. We're hoping to take everybody. But if more kids apply than that, then we will have to possibly say no to some students, but that doesn't mean they can't ever join AVID again. So there's always opportunities for kids to join at semester, whether that's halfway through their freshman year at semester or if they start sophomore year. They just can't join after their sophomore year, I think. Is that correct? Yeah. After their sophomore year. So after that start of their junior years, we don't really accept any more kids into the program. So they can still join their freshman and sophomore year. And the interview process is not meant to be scary. It's just Mrs. Dunn and I talking with kids, and Mr. Stiganga and Mr. Zernt might join too. They're elective teachers as well. And it's really just to get to know the student. So we have kind of what they submitted on paper, but just to kind of put a face with what they're saying and understanding who they are and why they're wanting to do this and, what they want for their future as well. So it's just a little like 5-minute conversation, not meant to be scary, just to get to know them. So that'll be happening. And then the week right after we do the interviews is when we'll let kids know if they've made it into the program or not, because their course selection will be happening right after that as well. So we wanted to make sure that we let kids know that if they've made it into the program or not. So that way it's slotted into their course selection. We'll let their sophomore counselors know that, or their freshman counselors know that, Mr. Myers and Ms. Flores, and they'll be able to put that on there already. And so to know that one of their electives is taken. So that's just a little bit about the timeline. A lot of moving pieces, I know, and there's a lot of kids that already have their application and their teacher recommendation forms in. And so we're just really excited for next year. And I think that might be, our application is there if you want to take on your camera. What's that called? QR code, right? Mrs. Dunn, if there's anything else you want to add.
I think Mr. Mankey also posted a link to the application in the comments to the video. So you could also click on there and take a look at the application. Mr. Stiganga has gone through the interview process with us last year. The first year I was the only one who was interviewing everyone. So all of the 51 kids in AVID 10 went through a one-on-one interview with me. But last year we split it up. So Ms. Hines, myself, Mr. Stiganga, and Mr. Zernt interviewed kids. And if your child is a little hesitant about the interview process, Mr. Stiganga is going to talk a little bit about just sort of some of the questions that we ask in that process. So you feel a little more comfortable going into it because we are not scary. But I've been told by the AVID 10 people that Mr. Stiganga is the scariest one of all of us. So he's going to fill you in on that.
Yeah, we just, hopefully they're not scared too much. But no, it's a really easy process. We just sit down one-on-one with them. Mrs. Dunn and Mrs. Hines do a great job of setting up pre-questions for the students where we just get to know them a little bit. Many students that join the program have dealt with a lot of things in life, whether it was at school or at home or whatever it might be, that they write in their applications. And we just want to get to know them a little bit more and The big thing that I took away from the interview process last year was just getting to understand what those students want for themselves, right? So if they're just joining the program because they're being forced to join versus like, hey, I want to join this program because I want to go to college, or I want to become this, or I want to be a better student, or I want to get better grades, like that, that desire to better themselves, I think was a cool thing to hear about in the process for me.
Yeah. And so basically, when you go into that interview process, we just want to know a little bit more about who you are. And we're not going to ask you anything that is not probably already in the application. We just want to kind of hear a little bit about who people are. And it's been really nice going through that interview process with eighth graders, because you get to experience a little bit about the kids who are coming into the high school. And for me, it made me really excited about starting this program, just sitting down and talking to kids and finding out who they are and where they come from, and just what amazing people they are and what amazing people they're going to become in the future. And we just want to be there for them to help them reach that amazing potential that they have. All right, so we are at the point where if anyone has any questions that they want to ask us that maybe we didn't address or that you were hoping we would talk about, if you haven't put anything in the comment section, but down below on YouTube, you can put in a comment and it comes up live for us here. We won't make you say anything, but we can read your question and answer it online so that we can get anything, any open questions that you have. Otherwise, if you have any other questions that you want to ask a little bit later, maybe not in this live area through comments, you can always email Miss Hines. Since she is the freshman campus AVID coordinator, she's the one who's kind of running the whole show with the eighth grade into AVID 9. And so you can email her. You could also email me. I'll answer you as well. Mr. Eiserman will answer you. Mr. Steganga would answer you. I mean, even Mr. Mankey would answer you any questions that you have, but she's probably the best person to go to. So I'm going to pass it over to whoever else wants to add anything. And meanwhile, if you want to write down a question, we can answer anything you pop up there.
Yeah, I'll jump in really quick here, Mrs. Dunn. Again, just reiterating what Mrs. Dunn said, for any of our live viewers, you can type a question into that comments box in YouTube and we can answer it right here on the spot for you. That's the advantage of doing this as a live stream as opposed to just a recorded video. I did put a scroll on the bottom just for kind of the bigger context for with course selection here as well. Again, although the AVID roster for freshman year will be decided prior to winter break, the remainder of course selection will happen within a couple of weeks coming back after winter break. You'll get more information from the eighth grade. Additionally, the McHenry High School course guide will become available soon as well. So if you want to start poking around and take a look at other electives that might fit into that freshman schedule, we would encourage you to do that as well. While we give our live viewers one more chance to formalize and enter any questions they have into that comments box in YouTube, Mr. Eiserman, I'm going to throw a question at you while we give our live viewers a chance to enter some questions here. Mr. Eiserman, how have you seen, just in the 2 years now that we've had AVID at the freshman campus, how have you seen it transform our building, let alone just learning on a day-to-day basis?
So I think it started with some pretty massive curiosity. You know, like we talked about this AVID thing. It happened very quickly. You know, it was in essence one of our counselors' professional goals, and to kind of research something, and they picked AVID, and then all of a sudden at the end of the year we adapted AVID, and we're kind of full bore. And so some of us, you know, who were immediately kind of in the loop, did site visits, all that stuff, but a lot of our staff was like, what is this AVID thing? They were very much like parents sitting out there right now. And so I think honestly it's taken until, I think, Mrs. Hines, our last faculty meeting, November in year 2, for many of our staff to really kind of get the picture. So I think year 1 for us was really like, let's get those elective kids and let's prove that what happens in that class works. This year, and my big role in AVID is to support and implement the idea of AVID building wide. So while it's not as easy to make a family out of 525 freshmen, we definitely try to build that culture of college and career and a desire to learn and to better yourselves. But then we also dive very specifically into the strategies. So my philosophy is, if these strategies are working for our 50 elective kids, why would we not teach them to all freshmen? So all freshmen, have that same set of skills to improve. So I think over the course of the last year and a half, our staff at the freshman campus has really started to see like, wow, this stuff really works. And so this year, one of our big goals is teachers watching teachers. And so we've had a lot of teachers go into the elective class or go into teachers who are very strong in these strategies and come out and be like, wow, I didn't realize that's what it was. I'm totally doing that because I saw it worked with the kids. So, and that kind of goes back to my previous comment is I want all kids to have that same success. And so, to be able to shrink that gap between what our AVID kids are demonstrating and what some of our others are doing, I think AVID and those strategies is the big key.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Eisman. We have had a couple questions come in. I'll take the first one. Mrs. Dunn, Mrs. Hines, I'll prep you for the second one here. The question that you'll respond to in a moment is the average GPA for students that have completed at least a semester in our AVID program. I'll take the first question that rolled in, though. And the question is, it's a great one. Are there additional scholarships for students that go through this program? Right now at McHenry High School, there are not specific ones that are allocated to AVID students. However, as students progress through the years, and again, right now, our AVID program is still in its relative infancy in year 2. But as students get to junior and senior year, I know I'll be pushing in more into the AVID program to really make sure that those students know every rock to look under to fund, those potential post-secondary steps beyond these walls. So again, and then we have the other question, the average GPA for AVID students. Ms. Dunn, Ms. Hines, either of you want to take that one?
I can actually take that one. I can also add a little bit on to what you just mentioned about scholarships. There is a national AVID scholarship called the AVID Promise Scholarship, which is available to students who have graduated from an AVID program at a public institution anywhere in the United States. There are some requirements for that, but it is a fairly weighty scholarship that you can get from the National AVID Center. So there are scholarships that are available. There may be some state ones too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but our AVID connection, Brent Anderson, will kind of let me know a little bit more about that. And I can answer that question a little bit more fully on December 4th for you if there's some specific Illinois ones. But Mr. Mankey is right. We will be looking at all these scholarships that senior year, both for entering whatever colleges that they go to, as well as national and local scholarships as well. All of our AVID kids are going to get all the information that they need to know about those scholarships. Our average GPA for AVID students last year, we ended the year with a 3.12 was our average GPA for our AVID class. And I'm not 100% sure where we are this year with AVID 10 or with AVID 9, what our average GPA is, because we haven't had a grading period yet in AVID 10 or in AVID 9, but that's kind of where we ended up. We'll talk to you a little bit on December 4th about the comparative data with kids who could have been in part of the AVID program, but were not, and what their average GPA was as well.
All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. So, we'll give one more plug to just the timeline here. Again, we have the recruitment night event coming up on December 4th at 6 o'clock at the Freshman Campus Theater. The applications are due again on December 13th. And then the remainder of the course selection process, again, will happen after winter break. Before we sign off here, I'm kind of keeping one more eye on the comments to see if anything else rolls in. Do any of my co-presenters have any final thoughts they would like to share?
Just let me jump in, Mr. Mankey, because I actually do, Mrs. Dunn. At a faculty meeting I presented, so it was probably a couple weeks back, the average GPA for our AVID 9 at the freshman campus was 2.99. So while we haven't had a grading period, I do have access to the live grades. So when I pulled it 2 weeks ago for our faculty meeting, the average GPA was right about 3.0. And that is the hallmark for what as a freshman principal, we tell our kids we want something that starts with a 3, right? Because that kind of signifies college and career ready. So they're on their way for sure.
All right. I don't see any other comments coming in. So on behalf of my colleagues, thank you for attending this live stream. We hope to see you the evening of December 4th, 6 o'clock at the freshman campus. And hey, give AVID a look. It is a wonderful, supportive program that helps your students prepare for the future while also performing at their best in the present. Take care. Have a great night, everyone.